Here's the corner of Argyle and Kingsway, which is the Port Alberni train station. Heritage building. This water tower was brought in from somewhere else in recent years for the tourist train. And up ahead is the Harbor Quay. Rails in the ground. The rails continue on towards the port. So I'm walking the route of what hopefully will be the summer 2024 tourism train. Runs along the industrial waterfront area from here at the train station down towards Stamp Avenue by Dry Creek. This will be the loading platform, I presume. So let's go for a walk on the route. Train station is so lovely, photogenic. Recent work was done here because where I'm walking used to be a railway spur and then a wooden platform behind me for the tourism train, and now it's a paved pathway. This is a good time for me to show you the big picture for where this is. We're on Vancouver Island on the west coast of British Columbia, and the red circle is where Port Alberni is. Port Alberni is located in the middle of the island, but it's also at the head of a long inlet that goes out to the west coast. That's why it's a port city. And here's a map of the city of Port Alberni, and the railway route is shown in the green line. And when the train went from Port Alberni train station, which is near the bottom middle where it says Port Alberni, it used to go all the way up to McLean Mill National Historic Site, and that's in the top middle of the map. But for summer 2024, the route is shown in red along the waterfront. Here's a close-up map of the Port Alberni waterfront with the railway shown in green. I should mention that my walkabout video was recorded on May 25th, which was a few days before the successful testing done for Technical Safety BC. So that's why I used the word hopefully when I described the summer 2024 train. So let me show you the location and give you some clarity about the route, which is shown here in red. The route essentially travels alongside most of the length of Harbour Road. It starts at the Port Alberni train station, and I've circled that in yellow. That's also where the train trip ends, of course. So after the trip starts at the train station, you go south along the waterfront all the way until either the end of track beside the APD sawmill site at the south end of Harbour Road. That's what it looks like from Google Maps Street View. Or maybe it's only going to go to near the Port Authority building near First Avenue, or somewhere in between those two areas. That is to be determined. After it's reached its southernmost part of the trip, the train will head back north, all the way to just before Dry Creek. That northern point is shown here, looking back south towards the rail yard and roundhouse. And then the train will go back south to the train station to end the trip. And here's the extent of my walk, starting at the train station, the red mark near the bottom, and going up to near Dry Creek, the red mark at the top. So the Alberni Pacific Railway is a tourist train experience enjoyed by locals and visitors alike. It's operated by the Western Vancouver Island Industrial Heritage Society. Here's a historical timeline of operations. 1984 was the start on a similar route along the industrial waterfront, with the train pulled by a Shay locomotive number 2, affectionately known as Two-Spot. Between 1984 and 2000, the industrial waterfront route continued with steam locomotives, eventually having the train pulled by the number 7 Baldwin locomotive. Between 2001 and 2018, the steam train ran from the train station to McLean Mill National Historic Site, and it was usually pulled by the number 7 Baldwin locomotive. I'm sorry that I never made the effort to ride the steam train during that era, but I did see it up close in June 2016 and got some photographs and a bit of video of it at Roger Creek. During the 2018 summer season, 3 boiler tubes ruptured, putting the number 7 Baldwin out of commission. And so between 2018 and 2021, the steam locomotive did not run, and a boiler retube project happened and was completed. I'll continue with the history in a moment, but we're coming up to one of the grade crossings that was being rebuilt. This is Athol Street. It's interesting for me to see a project like this in progress, to see that temporary condition when you can see the bare workings that are going to be covered up with pavement later. This is a crossing they had to fix because a truck low bed caught the rail. Back to the history. From 2019 to 2023, there was no train activity. The reasons were because of city budget decisions and then, of course, the COVID pandemic. As well, during this time, significant vandalism occurred to the 5 passenger cars. Shout out to Roland, who I just met and had a great conversation with on this sidewalk. Okay, we have a switch, our first switch on this walk, first of many, switching off as we get into the rail yard. 7 or 8 tracks wide at one point. And here is the Dunbar Street grade crossing with a truck. That's where we came from, towards the train station. 3 tracks wide here, and continuing to split into more. It's Mr. Hunter doing some work on the weeds. This is a hard-working group. I mean, they take care of their place for sure. So I'm continuing northward, walking on the side of Harbor Road, but now it's time to move over and start walking on the tracks. Back to talking about the history, and we are now up to 2024, where we now have a community-focused train along the waterfront route, with the train pulled by a diesel locomotive, and also there will be occasional rides in a cruise speeder. It's a good simple start to the new era. For the year 2025 onwards, well, that is still to be determined. The long-term hope is to eventually run the train with a steam locomotive from the Port Alberni waterfront up to McLean Mill. Business and feasibility plans are needed for that. I think that 2024's simple operation will be somewhat of a test, which will likely impact future decisions by the city. Okay, let's take a look at where we are. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6 across right now for rails. So this is a view to the roundhouse. That's the building on the left side of this photograph. This is where the locomotives are maintained, repaired, and stored. This Google Maps view shows you the location with 3rd Avenue on the right-hand side, the railway and Harbor Road on the left side, and my spot is the yellow circle looking towards the roundhouse. Log bunks, that's what I would call them, but other people know better. I'm always approximate with my terminology. Back to some historical discussion, in detail what I'm calling the back on track timeline. The context is that the Alberni Pacific Railway requires operating funding from the city. The city owns the rail yard and the waterfront tracks south of the train station down to the end of Harbor Road. The city track includes 2 crossings that need repair before train operations can happen again. I just like old history, so the fact that this flat car still says Soo Lines, an old Canadian Pacific subsidiary, I like that. Okay, I've changed up a battery. I was going to do a hike today, but there was rain happening where the weather forecast had said no rain. So I decided to do something else. I was going to hike at the Port Alberni summit area. So I came into Port Alberni and visited the Industrial Heritage Society's center at the old ice arena. And now I'm here on the railway along the waterfront. Now let's talk a bit about some recent history. In autumn 2023, a business plan and budget were being prepared by the Industrial Heritage Society. The business plan had options: steam locomotive or diesel locomotive. In October 2023, the Industrial Heritage Society did their introductory presentation to Port Alberni City Council. In mid-January and again in mid-March 2024, the Industrial Heritage Society did presentations of their business plan and budget to the Port Alberni City Council. They were also assembling more information in order to help City Council to be able to make a decision. On April 22, 2024, the city approved a 1-year agreement with the Society to operate a short-track passenger train service along the waterfront. The Society now had the challenge of getting ready within a short time frame. So during late April and May 2024, the Society's volunteer team has been busy with readying the diesel locomotive and the passenger cars and the speeder and the rail yard and other things readying for operations. In late May 2024, the 2 rail crossings were being repaired. And there was also a visit by Technical Safety BC, including a test run of the train on the route. So up through here, after I cross this industrial entranceway, go into the weeds, and that's where Dry Creek is, with the little small bridge. Okay, that was funny. I almost got splashed because I wasn't paying attention to the fact that I was beside a puddle with a truck coming by. And right about here is the north end of the train route, and I'm just continuing to walk into the weeds as far as I feel like going. Finishing up my timeline commentary, mid-June 2024 is the planned soft start of public train rides, with full operations hopefully by the end of June. We're in the world of weeds here. I got a little bit of a slough swamp between this track and the next. My plan is to get to the end, past this red sign. And you know what? I got too much broom on that side and too much broom ahead. I don't want the ticks that come with the broom, so I'll turn around here and head on back. Looking back at where I just came from, there's the other set of tracks. So we'll get through this fence and I'll just take a look the other way. Here's where the Y starts, it goes off to the right. This is the south leg of the Y. And it goes towards Dry Creek Bridge. The Y is all overgrown. Okay, let's walk the set of tracks back towards the roundhouse. So the rail again is lined for me to go to the left. Yeah, which way is the switch line? Line to go to the right, down that track. as if I were going this way. But let's head off this way instead. Switches all over the place. It's the rail yard. I continued walking to the roundhouse and was able to spend some time inside the roundhouse shooting video, making some photographs, and that's going to be in a separate video. After that, I walked back to the main line and continued walking south to the train station. Alright, so long roundhouse, until next time. Okay, walking south through the rail yard. Okay, let's go over the frog. Where are we? In the middle of the rail yard. So here comes the level crossing that the city has had to repair because the low bed of a truck clipped the rail. Let's just cross over. Okay, thanks very much for watching this. Appreciate it. I sure had fun walking along this train route and visiting the roundhouse. A good day in Port Alberni.